Hello, I'm Bill Say, and today I'd like to talk about an important way how one can differentiate different kinds of processes. And in the process work model, you're basically talking about three levels. Consensus reality, that's a level of facts and figures and power troubles and dynamics. It's the level that most people could acknowledge without necessarily agreeing about the details. For example, today is Tuesday, February 8th. It's 11 a.m. in the morning in California. That level where most people can say, "Oh yeah, that's that." Okay. A second level is what we call dreamland, and that's a level of subjectivity and shared roles and a dreamlike phenomenon. And I'll say give a few examples of what that could be. And thirdly, we have a level of essence, which is arguably a unitive, non-dualistic realm. Um, Let me look at my notes here for a second. Yeah, so if we're working with groups or communities, and there are different issues. It's important to be able to see these different levels. For example, one common problem is a group may be debating or discussing a certain issue, and some members may be talking about it from a relatively rational point of view and bringing forth what they might consider to be factual information, really important. But other members may be more expressive of their feelings and emotions, and that's really important. But sometimes without that framing that there are actually two levels of reality that are trying to be addressed at the same time, and they may be clashing with each other. Um, it's a common way how different levels of a reality can be arising at the same time and not necessarily speaking or understanding each other. So, having as a facilitator, it can be helpful to be able to kind of see that, frame that, and maybe, for example, getting the group to let's focus on one at a time. Yeah. Or at least making clear that there's actually a clash and that there are two different levels of reality at play. Um, See, let me give a little example that can show how these three levels may be, at present in a given situation. So let's think about an individual who has headaches. Yeah, he has a headache, and most people could say because a headache is a consensus reality kind of a description. It's a symptom. Most people would say, "Oh yeah, yeah, that guy has a headache. Bill has a headache." Yeah, consensus reality level headache. And then if you look into it, there's many reasons that can cause headaches. There's a vascular problem, stress, et cetera, et cetera. And those are all can be considered um, consensus reality aspects or ways of looking at the headache. But let's say we talk with this guy and explore a little bit. What's in the nature and the experience of this headache? Let's say after a little bit he says, "Well, God, it feels like like I ask him, what's how do you experience the headache?" And he says, "Well, sometimes like it's like a pounding." I say, "Can you stay with that for a little bit?" Let's say he stays with this kind of pounding headache, common kind of description for headaches, and he realizes this is really weird. It doesn't make any sense, but it's almost like there's a little man in my head pounding away with a hammer. Now, this, of course, is not a consensus reality thing. It's like most people would say, "Well, wait a minute. There's not a man in his head with a hammer pounding away. That's just his own subjective fancy." So that's the clue there. It's a subjective, dreamlike aspect of this man's headache that he experiences something like this as a man pounding away with a hammer. And let's say he explores this a bit, and he finds that there's something about this pounding that he realizes I feel a little uncomfortable with this, but I also realize I need to be more pounding, more insistent because I too easily give up my position, don't believe in my views. So at that level, maybe he starts to find meaning in this dreaming aspect embedded in the symptom. Now, let's go a step further. Let's say we consider, there's so he gets some benefit by exploring this pounding Actually, I'm making this motion. He gets some meaning exploring this pounding expression, and then through this movement, and movement's a great way to drop down a level here from dreaming into essence. Let's say we say, well, what's at the base? What's at the root of this pounding figure? Boom, boom, boom. As a way to kind of get at the root of the thing, it's arguably its essence. It's the third level that we look at in process work. And we find this man finds, for example, that in this pounding, you often have to slow down and really start to use your more subtle awareness here. Let's say he finds that in this pounding, oh my gosh, it's different. It's different, he realizes. It's like there's something that's just about pure expansion. Wow. And let's say the guy is someone who considers himself very shrunken and he's afraid to take up space and he doesn't really feel like he has room to be. Actually, a little bit my process is Bill. But he finds that in this pounding, at the base, at the essence of this pounding, there's something like pure expansion. And he realizes, wow, I need more of that. Because then he feels it's like, oh, there I have room to be. I have room to breathe in that expansive energy. Ooh. So that's an example of like taking something that at the consensus reality level, headache, exploring it, finds that there's a dreaming process in it, and then the essence of that, boom, pure expansion. Or let's say you're helping a couple or a friend of some friends of yours that are in a relationship of some sort, and they have some kind of a communication pattern with each other that tends to be kind of indirect but friendly. They like to get along. They don't like to have conflict. But let's say they start to have some tensions that are coming up. And at the consensus reality level, one concrete part that is apparent is sometimes when they get into these tensions, they start pointing their fingers at each other. Something like a video camera could actually record. It's like, oh, you, but you, ooh, ooh, ooh. And usually because they're very friendly with each other and indirect, they're also really troubled by this finger pointing. If one is being pointed at, they think, "Oh, I don't like it when you point your finger at me." Yeah, and they start to have some conflicts around it. But as the facilitator, you're saying, "Okay, at the consensus reality level, there's this pointing." And then when you talk to them a little bit about what bothers them so much, one actually maybe I say both people in some way feel like, "Oh, that doesn't feel friendly anymore. It feels like almost like someone's pointing a gun at me and shooting me. It's almost like you're trying to kill or assassinate me. I feel like in those moments where you're pointing your finger, you're not my friend anymore, and feel like you just want to kill me off." Yeah, something like that. And so that could be like a little bit more like the dreaming level here. Yeah, the assassin being assassinated, being killed off. Okay. So again, that's not a subject or that's not a consensus reality thing. It's just that their association to be pointed at. Because maybe other people say, well, I could see maybe that'd be a little bit irritating being pointed at, but it wouldn't really bother me so much. But let's say one or both these people feel like, no, it's more than that. It's feel like you're assassinating me. Yeah. So maybe that's the dream level that's important here. This thing about assassination. And sometimes, like just identifying that level can start to be a little bit helpful, because then you can explore how each one has some sensitivity to being assassinated. Yeah. And they could say their feelings about that. And then maybe the one who's assassinating could say, well, I want to assassinate you sometimes because you're just so stuck in your position. I just want to kill off that one who's so resistant to what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. Maybe there's a certain level of help that these two people could find there. But sometimes when there's a troubling, dreaming figure in a process, such as the one who assassinates, it's hard to fully resolve that without going another level deeper. So in this case, let's say we help these two people find what's at the essence of this assassination, this assassin, and they find, let's say one or both finds something like this. It's like, oh yeah, if I really believe in this pointing, this assassinate, this killing off energy, let's see what it could be. I'm trying to feel into this to give you also a little bit idea how it's It's kind of subtle awareness work that we often can't guess. We oftentimes have to use our awareness and subtle awareness and feeling into what's at the root of this. And let's say the person feels like, yeah, let's see, it's subtle here. What could it be? A little self-conscious. And don't take too much time, Bill, but I don't want to just jump. I feel like there is something here for me. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get. It's a little hard to do and take time, but let me see. Give me another few moments. I'll see if I can come up with it, or else I'll just kind of make a guess just for the sake of having an example. But let's say it's something that clears the way. Oh, then I notice I take a breath. Something that clears the way. And then maybe one or both people realize, yeah, that's it. This assassin clears the way. And finally, I feel like I have room. So it's kind of reminds me of the headache process. Maybe they're similar people. I'm the common denominator here, but that gets too complicated. Let's say it clears the way, and I feel like, oh, I haven't had enough space here in these tense moments where we disagree. And I feel like the assassin, the essence of the assassin energy, is it gives me room to be and say, wait a minute. If I really believe in that clearing the way space, wait a minute, I want to clear the way from my own view here so I can feel it to start. Because, we're in this friendly relationship, we're very indirect, but sometimes I realize that as one party to this relationship, I don't always really believe or takes time and space for my own view, how I feel about things, how I see things, because I'm too busy or we're too busy being friendly with each other. And there's something about clearing the way, leave space. And then that essence is something I want to bring more into the relationship. So even when we differ, I want to honor your need to clear the way, and I want to honor my need to clear the way. So I feel like there's also room for my point of view. Last example, a group. Let's say you're working with a group or community group, and they're discussing communication and diversity issues. Really kind of a common thing, and that's also like a consensus reality thing. Most people would say, "Oh yeah, that group they're discussing their communication things around, say, gender or race or socioeconomics, etc." Okay, um, but let's say that there's some complaints from the lower ranking members about the leaders and the overall group that if they speak up too much, they get punished. There's a subtle retribution. And let's say the leaders deny this and say, no, no, that's not it. But then at the dreaming level, let's say that this one who punishes or enacts some kind of retribution is like a ghost. Yeah. This is a this is a construct that we use in process work that's connected to this dreaming realm is the ghost role. So when this one who punishes is denied, so some group members say, if we speak out, you will punish us. And if the group leaders deny this, then that role of the punisher is kind of like it's unowned, it's disembodied like a ghost. But let's say it's actually present in this environment. There's a punishing kind of part that will say, you better not speak up too much, down on you. Yeah. And so starting to name this ghost role and explore, let's see just tentatively for a little bit if we explore the possibility that there is indeed something that's like punishes, enacts a kind of retribution for those who speak out too much. And if it's a systemic thing, what I think what I've often found is that many people or most people or sometimes everyone experiences, yeah, there is something like that in this environment. And the leaders might say, I could see that maybe I enact that punisher, but I also feel at the effect of that punisher too. It's like, when you start to speak out and complain about me, I think in some way I also feel that. It's like I'm being punished. And then maybe through the exploration of the two roles, the one who feels punished for speaking up and the one who punishes, with a little bit of playfulness and a little bit of the sense that these are shared roles, maybe the group starts to get a little bit more awareness. It's like, oh my gosh, in little and bigger ways, I too am the punisher. Oh my gosh. And in the little and bigger ways, I too can feel punished. I need to speak about how that hurts and how it scares me. Yeah. And then maybe it starts to result in greater awareness in the group. And then, furthermore, let's say we explore the essence of this troubling role of the punisher. I know we've had a little theme about these kind of difficult figures, but because they're also really common, I'll just stay with this example. And we find something that's like it not only punishes, but let's say it kind of cancels. It's like it's a little bit of a cancel culture in this group. And it cancels the other one for their complaining or their outlying perspective. It's like a canceling culture. And then when they explore the essence of that canceler, let's say they find something that is like, yeah, I'm going to cancel you. Don't like that point of view. Doesn't have any place in our group. Cancels you, and it finds. Let's say a person explores this for the group, and they find something that's really decisive, and then they realize, oh my gosh, we as a group, we talk about things and talk about things, but we don't ever resolve anything, and things go around and round. And we actually need a little bit, not the canceler, because that cancel culture thing, it just kind of keeps our group kind of hemmed in and limited. But this thing about the decisiveness, I feel like that energy of being decisive, which was at the root, at the essence of the canceler, is something that our group lacks. We are not decisive when sometimes we've talked about things and talked about things, and we just need to say, this is what we're doing. And then the group finds some relief. And then they realize we need to practice that a bit more. So, those are a few examples. This is a very complex realm, but it's one model that you might find helpful in thinking about uh, groups and organizations of different sorts and their different issues and processes and what levels of reality may be at hand and how they may need to be embraced and addressed for the sake of the group. Okay, hope that's helpful. Thanks, and take care for now. Bye bye.